Welcome to Spells from the Shelf. I'm Ammie.
And I'm Paul. Thanks for being here. Today we have the amazing, the indubitable Tori VL Bovalino.
Yes.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, of course. And to everyone listening who's like, wow, what a curious voice for an audio format. My apologies. I am just over a cold, so we have some lingering goosiness sticking around. But yes, so I'm Tori, otherwise known as VL Bovalino. I write fantasy and horror. My latest book, which came out... So actually, my latest book was called Eye in the Shadows, which is as Tori, and that was the Cyrano de Bergerac retelling. But the book I'm better known for is called The Second Death of Locke, and that came out last September. It is high fantasy, sword and sorcery style, about a magic system that requires two people to function, a mage who uses power and turns it into magic, and a well who holds that power, and the main character is Grey. Grey is a well, so she provides power to her mage Kier, and they are stuck in the middle of their nation's war, and they have some secrets about it. So that's basically where we're starting from.
Great synopsis.
That's actually a perfect synopsis. And
thank you.
I have a copy.
Oh, look at her.
I know. I love it. I love... I was really excited because last year was my Lady Night era.
Yeah. No, it was actually really funny to see everything coming out because, like, it wasn't intentional. And, like, some of us know each other as well. Like, it wasn't like, hey, shall we do nights now? Like, there was no, conspiracy happening here. I think it was just, like, too many of us saw the Dev Patel Green Knight and just, like, it grew in the brain. And then, like, Game of Thrones and all of that. So it's like the brain cell at work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and... I mean, the cover pretty much like gives you everything that you need in this book.
She is beautiful. And so that is Anna Moshek. And I know, again, audio format, but I have prints. And so she did this, which is, so that's the same color or cover artist. So she had that as one of her like main kind of Instagram, I guess, pieces that she's known for. So when we were doing the cover, we were like, hello, Anna Moshek. Are you free? You busy on Friday? And she was like, yeah, I'll do it. And yeah, gorgeous. I'm just blown away by what she's done.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's fantastic art because it almost looks like a painting.
Yeah. That was the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just with the blood.
With the blood, her split lip. Oh, I love it.
Oh yeah.
So good. And I can say it because I didn't do anything. So yeah, beautiful. And she did the second cover as well, which is gorgeous. And I'm so curious what she's going to do for the third. But yeah, she's posted because actually there is like a zoomed out version. That's a zoomed in version. There's a zoomed out version with Gray's full face.
Oh.
So she's posted that. And France has, interestingly, put the entire thing on the book cover. So yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to go look now, actually.
Yeah, no, it's like her entire face. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, I'm definitely going to go look now, for sure.
That's from the Parisian audience wants full frontal face.
The Parisians are like, well, because it's very Joan of Arc, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. Yes. Okay. When I looked at the cover, I remember thinking, I was like, why does that give me such a familiar feeling?
Yeah.
And Joan of Arc was one of my she's one of my favorites. And now that's going to get me. Now I'm wishing I had thought of that.
No, I'm so with you because there's a specific painting. I think. Sorry, I know we haven't even gotten into it. This is my problem. I'm a yapper and I get off topic.
We love it.
But there's like a specific painting. Right, exactly. I'm like Joan of Arc kneeling. Right. We will get there. But yeah, it's that. I think that was one of the big like comps. But yes, I can talk about it for ages because again, like I said, I had nothing to do with it other than like saying, "Oh, pretty shiny." So it's beautiful. Anna Moshek is the illustrator, and Ella Garrett, who is at like Little Brown in the UK, she did the art direction for it. So very, very just honored to have such a gorgeous cover. I know, it comes up a lot because it's just so stunning.
It is. Yeah. It really is stunning. And we did a soft question to start out with because after reading this book, it was the first thing that popped into my head is what books inspired you to be a writer?
Yeah. Oh, to be a writer. Oh, that's harder. Yes. So I've always been a reader, which I imagine most people say, but I think like since I was a kid, like there's that age-old preschool question of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I've always said writer, archaeologist, Jedi. Jedi was ruled out from an early age. Archaeologist, I actually did do a forensic anthropology degree, so we got like halfway there, and then I was like, science, I can't do that. But I've always written, always been a writer. I was definitely that nerd in the corner with a laptop at like college parties, like editing, which is probably not the most inspiring thing for my social life. But in terms of books that I knew I wanted to be a writer, I think when I was very young, like my parents read to me a lot. So like I had a lot of like C.S. Lewis. I remember specifically like my aunt reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to my sister and I when we were like on the swings. I feel like that was such a strong part of my childhood, like being read to. And then when I got a little bit older, some of the books that really stood out to me, I've talked a lot about Fire by Kristen Kishore as being something that's so deeply influential for, I guess, me as a person and also my body of work. And I think that was like one of the first books that I read when I was a teenager that covered a lot of like issues that felt very close to me. Like there's a lot about like womanhood and like what it means to like be a woman and make sacrifices, and like it was just such an interesting book, and the romance in that is so soft and so beautiful. And so I loved that. And then one other that I felt really connected to when I was growing up, this isn't a book necessarily. I read Stephen King way before I was like old enough. Like I remember being, because my dad was a huge Stephen King fan. And I remember being like 11 or something and like hiding my books under the bed because like they're at the school library. Like what's the worst that could happen? But I think that was kind of the first time that like voice made sense to me as a kid, because I think like up until that point, it was just a lot of thinking that people, I guess, like replicated one another or like had to use perfect English. And Stephen King's books, when I was at that age, there's just such a use of language. It's just Kingisms, you know, he makes his own language up. And I think it was the first time that I was like, you can do that? And like, that was amazing. So I think that was hugely influential to me as a baby writer. And then, yeah, Kristen Kishore. And yeah, so many other people. Like I read Cassandra Clare growing up. All of the tomes I read. Yeah, I was growing up the golden age of YA. Like I read everything that was available. Like Hunger Games on release day. Like we were there in the queue at the Twilight movies. Like yeah.
Yep.
I had a shirt.
Yeah, I also read Stephen. Well, I never read it. That's the only one I never read. My brother was watching the movie when I was very, very young, and I snuck downstairs, and I've been afraid of clowns ever since.
Yeah.
But my mom was a huge Stephen King fan, so I understood when you said, like, then it kind of trickled down, like, oh, what are these books?
Exactly. And I think for a lot of us, like, the things that our parents read that we got our hands on was the first, like, above our shall we say suggested content that we were able to read as children. And for me, like that was horror, and also scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yep.
I think that was huge.
At the pajama
exactly
party. Yeah,
exactly. And I feel like I grew up in such an era where like storytelling was still such a thing, like sleepovers that we'd sit around and try and scare the shit out of one another. Like miss that.
I don't think that's an uncommon experience with Stephen King, by the way, where somebody like you picked up a little bit too young. I remember Cujo, like I picked that up, but I can't even remember how old I was, but it felt like I was too young to be reading that.
Yes.
Like, oh man, I still remember the chills, the hair sticking up. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to keep going here.
Yeah, like I think this was Lisey's story, which I definitely read in high school, and I was like, it wasn't my first King, but it's one of my favorites. And there's just depth. There's depth to it because it's about a married couple, and there's like grief, and there's all those things happening, and it just doesn't make a ton of sense. I remember I read Bag of Bones again when I was too young, and then there was the AMC adaptation or something.
Oh yeah,
that came out like a decade ago. And I remember my mom was like, "Oh, you read this book? Let's watch it." And I was like, Jane, Don't know about that. Because I'm really good with like reading horror, but really bad at visual horror.
That's interesting you say that, because I used to love watching horror movies. Me and Paulie went on a side quest moment one time before recording where I told him I used to love watching like Poltergeist and The Conjuring was like my comfort movie. And then at some point I got really scared to watch that stuff. But then we read this really unique book that Paulie found, The King in Yellow, and I was worried.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that fun. Yeah.
With you. I'm with you.
And I thought I was going to be too scared. And I mean, I was a little spooked. I did not read it in the dark. I will admit.
Dude, that book arrived on my doorstep and it was like hot and it spooked me something good.
Yeah. There's something about some of that like older horror where it's like so deeply conceptual. Like, what is it? Because it's
psychological.
Yeah. Or like the great god Pan as well. Like this idea of like the brain not being able to function knowing that much. Yeah. Spooky.
Oh, it is. It's very spooky. Very.
So moving along with questions so we can get into the book at some point.
Sorry, we're talking about everything else.
No, but I've got one more that's not going to go into the book. So like I'm pot calling the kettle black here. So you hold a PhD in English.
I do.
Your press kit mentions JSTOR. So it various and fantastical topics. So like I had to go here with this one because I work a little bit with repositories at my other job, the one that pays me. So what's the most like unhinged academic rabbit hole you fell down while going through JSTOR? And how did you kind of correlate any of it to Locke, to the Second Death of Locke, your book? And then if there's anything that you really like one of your favorite, like, I don't know if I'm going to write that into a story, but it's a seed and it might end up one day in a story.
I'm so glad you asked this because the book that I'm currently working on is not Locke. We will get there. It's not Locke, but it's so it's coming out next August. It's called The Dying Season. And I'm calling it necromantasy, but it's necromancy, but essentially, okay, so stepping back a little bit, in the 1800s, Victorian era, people were dying in London. And they were like, we need to bury people like wherever else outside of the city because like, disease and things like that, running out of space. So there were 7, somebody's going to listen to this and be like, you are incorrect on your facts. And sorry. There were 7 great cemeteries that were made around London. And one of them was Brookwood, which is out west, outside of the realm of Greater London exactly. So they needed a way to transport the bodies from the city of London to Brookwood. So they came up with the London Necropolis Railway. And the London Necropolis Railway ran from Waterloo to Brookwood. And basically, like, it was a certain price for the body, and they like had like the casket carriage and a different price for like people, and it was like a 2-hour journey or something because trains were a lot slower. I'm making an assumption there. I don't actually know. It doesn't take 2 hours to get to Brookwood now. I don't know why it did then, but you could like you could have tea, you could sit. It was like a morning thing. And so the LNR ran until the 1940s. Like it was used for the war for some stuff. But basically, and they closed it, they parceled it out, and part of it became what's now the Tube, and part of it became like owned by private railways, and part of it just still exists. And it's just there and shut down, and who knows? So that has been just kind of living in the hindbrain for a while. And so I wanted to do something that was set in London because obviously, like, I love London, and I've not actually had a book fully set there. I've had characters from there, but I lived there for a couple years, and I'm still like just north of it in the UK. So I wanted to do something with that, and I wanted to do something with the railway. And so necromancy to me was the option. Like, of course, what if the necromancers just bought the railway, and then that's how they get bodies between the great houses of necromancy? But I wanted it to be really nerdy, so it's based off of Greek necromancy. So like there's this book that was published in 2000 by this guy called Daniel Ogden, who's literally like a Greek classic scholar. Like this is a real man who has like real degrees and publishes real papers, and it's called Greek and Roman Necromancy, and I don't have it on my desk right now, but it's basically like going through these religious practices of what is necromancy? How do we use it? And like, what is it? It's the idea of the necromancer as the historian. And it's so interesting to me. So I basically wrote a book about it. There's a lot about Odysseus. That's why I have the Odyssey sitting next to me. So I am in such a JSTOR spiral right now. The articles that I literally have up in my tabs are like Greek definitions of organs, the function of the, like, religiously, when did we start being able to cut into the body? Because that was a weird concept, like the idea of like autopsy and things. Sorry, I know I'm going a mile a minute. Interrupt me at any point here.
No, I'm
Jack the Ripper, the surgeries, like around that time. Great timeline, great setting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm loving this.
But like conceptually, like within this practice, like what is the soul? What's the purpose of the body? How do we use it? So that's the spiral I'm in now. Like I had an event in DC and I told them all about this like PhD that I was reading, which was about necromancy in one of Plato's very not well-known writings. But like, yes. So that's the spiral I'm in. It's about Greek necromancy. And then there's that question of like, as a fiction writer and as somebody who's writing horror or fantasy, like how much do I have to stick to reality? How much am I blasphemizing from the Greeks here? Because like a lot, basically. So that's where we are. What's that?
That's your job with creative license, right?
Well, yes. But I also don't want a bunch of classic scholars to be like, hey now.
What if there's classic scholars in the Greek necromancy arena?
Yeah.
And I mean, landmines, boxing gloves are off.
I know. And like, I think the only thing that I'm holding on to is that somebody who's into the classics might read this and be like, hey, she did some research.
So I'm very much a classics nerd, and I love that we get to go on side quests about this, because we did in our last author interview too, where we went
amazing.
Because I love the classics. I really do. And recently, it's so interesting that you're bringing up necromancy, because I had suggested that we read a necromancy book, Gideon the Ninth, for our spooky season.
I love Gideon the Ninth. It's one of my favorite books. It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good. And it's one of the first newer necromancy books that I read. And then Alchemize was another one that I read that also has necromancy, but it's way heavier. And I was saying Gideon the Ninth adds that like dark humor. So you're kind of always laughing with the character, even though it's really grotesque.
Have you read Harrow yet? Or
no, not yet.
Okay, because there is a long running bit in that. That's like, all I'm gonna say is when you get to the soup scene, you will know what I'm talking about. But it's exactly that. It's like, this is something that's really gory and really grisly, but actually like bodies are a little bit funny, and so is decay, and so is mortality. Like, we're all gonna die anyways. Let's just make it fun.
Just make it fun. I love that. Oh my goodness. So we're very excited about this whole necromancy trail.
Thanks.
I'm going to ask you, Polly, to teach me this JSTOR stuff.
Well, this is why I have to like stay teaching, is because JSTOR is actually really expensive, right?
I don't have it. I feel like there was like some free stuff that I could pull up. But I don't know. I wasn't paying for it yet. But I go through like Arxiv, ARXIV. I don't know if you've seen that one. So I'm like, so I go on that one a lot. It reads like sci-fi for any of the sci-fi.
Yeah.
There's some covers biophysics, like biology, physics, quantum, like everything.
Your brain is so much bigger than mine. I don't do space. Space is a hard no for me.
We just got off Project Hail Mary, and then
that's a big space one.
Big space.
Big space. So now I have to ask, which character did you create that surprised you the most with the decisions that they made?
So I don't think Gray's decisions really ever surprised me.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of them were like inevitable, And that's kind of the point as well, is like a lot of them are inevitable because like, especially in the end of the book, she has quite a lot of decisions that she's faced with. It kind of became like a bit like a trope with me of like, am I giving her too many decisions that she has to make choices? To the point where she says, I wrote her being like, hey, if everybody could like stop giving me choices, like that would be great. So I don't necessarily think that any choices like were hard in that sense. I think they were difficult in terms of fallout because Locke is a book that deals quite a lot with consequences. So like, so much of it is the finding out that comes after the fucking around. So if you like really think about it, the entire book spans from her making decisions when she was a young child, and then like what happens after. So her decisions, I think, always made sense to me. I think with book 2, which is called The Thief and the Traitor Bride, the main character, her name is Nora Gordon. I think her decisions are a little bit harder to sit with, partially because like, so book 2 comes in, and the main character is a wine trader and a spy. And something that was interesting to poke with that is like right and wrong versus like this idea of like nationalism. So like, what is your duty to country versus what is your duty to like moral right? So I think that was something that I had a lot of internal questions with, but also like Nor, especially for readers of Locke who like Gray, might struggle with Nor at first, because it is a standalone, but we definitely see some friends again. But I think anyone who like really, really loves Gray and Keir might dislike Nor at the beginning, but it'll be fine. Like, trust me, she's okay.
Nice teaser. All right, and then so going into like battles and kind of the Gray and Keir relationship. If
yes,
riding into battle with one of your characters, who are you taking with you?
Oh God, Gray. Actually, okay, Gray or Ola, because there's definitely like also a thing of Ola's definitely gonna like fuck you up, like
Ferocious,
without a doubt. So I think Gray or Ola. I think that also like both of them are Wells, so both of them are hands. So their entire role is to like be the defender, like be the big scary. So I think they would both be well trained. I would not be a mage. I would be a Typic. I would be a Typic baker. I would be out of the war. I'm in a village somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think I'm making it in any war.
No, like leave me out of it. I will pay my taxes and just like complain.
At the pub, so you can hear all the stories, and then
At the pub. Exactly. Like, if I was anyone in the book, I'm like the tavern keeper who I can't remember what happens to her in like the last iteration. I think Keir just like knocks her out. Like, I think he's like, okay, she's going to take a little nap over here. That's me. That's my self-insert, I guess.
We're going to take care of her, right? Because they do.
Right.
Like, can you check on her? Like when.
Exactly. Like, okay, she's fine.
No, I love that. And as we go into the theme of your characters, so an overarching theme for us on Spells from the Shelf is we've delved more into the literary archetypes and themes rather than solely tropes. And did you go into the story knowing that you wanted to reverse the archetype of the knight, which in past novels used to be more mask characters? I personally have been enjoying like this big surge of the lady knights and just kind of seeing it. And I've read like 3, and Paulie and I have read 2 now, and it's been great.
Yeah, no, I mean, did I intentionally go into it thinking that? No. And I think part of it is because the book has just been with me for a really long time. So I first kind of came up with Gray and Keir when I was somewhere in like the ambiguous 14 to 16 age. Like, I have scraps and notes and things from that era, essentially. So Gray has shifted quite a lot over the years. Keir has shifted in status, but not personality, shall we say. But I think, like, in terms of who they are in this final form, with Gray being more of like the knightly character. Yeah, I think part of it has been like so inspired by like visually seeing like art. Like we spent a long time talking about the cover, obviously.
Right.
So that was a huge influence. And then also watching Game of Thrones when it was on TV. And so I was in high school when the first season started, and I was dating an absolute nerd at the time. So I was an OG Game of Throneser. So yeah, just watching it come out. And then also that really stuck with me was being so disappointed with like the women in season 8, like specifically, like everyone's outcome was really disappointing for me. But I really loved Sansa Stark as the Queen of the North. And then there was something about like Brienne of Tarth and that whole arc, essentially, which I will come back to again in book 3. I think there was a lot of this unsatisfying relationship between women and power in a lot of what I was reading and what I was consuming. And also something that I just kept coming up against was, how many books are there where there's a question of, would you give up your power for this person? And often the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And that stressed me out. I don't know. It just stressed me out so much. Because, no, like, why would they want me to, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I was coming from. And so it's the outwards expression of power through like physical power. So like knightly behavior and swords, women with swords and shields and things like that. But then also like a literal internal projection of power through like the mage and well system. And so, yeah, I think for me, it was just like a way to investigate power structures and who has power, who keeps it, and what the cost is.
Ooh, that's an excellent, wow. That, I just got like chills because pretty much, yeah, that like, and like when you were saying all that, I did find Gray's character very empowering. And I also found Galva is another lady knight that we read in The Black Tongue Thief. I also found her character very empowering. So I don't think I really have sat with how empowering that feeling is to see like these kinds of characters playing out on paper. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting because like how gender factors into it changes from book to book. And like if gender is a point of question. So if it is a question of like there's often that trope of like this knight is not like the other girls because she's powerful, because she's knightly. But then like I think something that I wanted to do, and not to say that my book is not like the other girls, because there's loads of girls just like her. Like if gender is kind of being factored out in that sense, like if we're just like anyone who's above this age who can fight, yeah, you're going to war, you're going to the military. What does that do for like that society? And I think having that sense of queer so that's more gender normativity, but then also the queer normativity on top of that. Like that was something that I really wanted to poke. And especially as we kind of move into going from like this post-war structure to like a nobility structure, which we get into more in the question of like, well, if an heir is required, like what's the system through that? And like, how do we go through inheritance? And how does primogeniture work in the society where the focus is on something other than gender? Like that's all been stuff that's been growing in the brain juice.
The brain juice. I love that.
She is bubbling.
Ectoplasm creativity.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much creativity. This is great. I'm like,
Thanks.
I love good like conversations around books, man.
I love books.
I like story. Give me some more story.
I just like stories.
So as we talk about kind of that like building up of story, so and just a few moments ago you were talking about how Gray's personality, something changes, but her personality does not shift. So
she's a dick the whole way through. Like Gray is slightly. Is she unlikable? Like, yes, I do think she's unlikable. And in book 2, when we're seeing her from a different perspective, she is also still unlikable.
Depends on who appeals to you as a character, right? Like unlikable or that abrasive edge, right, can come off Like usually it's like, oh, there's probably a few layers there, and they're not abrasive edge for the sake of just being belligerent.
Curmudgeonly, she is.
Curmudgeon, I love that.
So Gray's past doesn't really come to us in a straight line, right? It surfaces in these fragments or fragmented memories, a little bit like how kind of trauma hits us in real life. So talk to us a little bit about like how that worked for you structurally. Like, did you make that decision ahead of the time, or was Gray's personality coming out and being like, "I'll let you know when I can reveal"?
I think it was such an interesting process because at no point does she lie to the reader. She just doesn't tell the whole truth. So when I was writing the first iteration of this book, when I was a kid, when I was Gray's age, it started with what is now the interlude. So it's how much do we get into spoilers? It's totally up to you. I will just
It's time.
skate over.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so obviously Locke blows up. So with the very first version of it that I was writing when I was a teenager, that's the opening. Is like we start with Gray and her family, and they're being attacked, and you get like this sense of like what the Isle is and its culture and all of that, and then like boom, we go from there. So in the earliest version of the book, we know exactly from the very beginning who Gray is, what happened to her, and what kicked off this war. And then there's a time jump. So it was almost like a prologue. And then we go into, in the earliest version, it was YA, so she was 16. And there's all this other stuff going on, which doesn't happen anymore. It used to be a marriage contest, but like, we'll leave that alone. Yeah, weird.
A marriage contest. Oh my god, that's so interesting. That's kind of like that's like a play on the marriage of convenience.
It was very selection coded. I don't know if you were in the Kiera Cass.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
But it's changed.
I love hearing how long the story has been with you, though.
Yes, many iterations over time until like it felt like it. I feel like I got it right for me this time around. So like it's that thing about like growing with craft. So yeah, it was very different. But so in terms of Gray's backstory, that was the prologue, and actually like I directly pulled some of the stuff from the draft from when I was 14, which was a weird experience of like, because I was terrible when I was 14, like just not a good writer. So like, you know, going through and be like, ooh, that's a bit weird. So that was interesting. But yeah, so in terms of Gray's character coming through, I wanted it to be one of those things that if you as the reader don't know, like you want to read it twice. Like read it through the first time, you get to the end of that chapter when Kira's like, what are you going to do when they find out that you're Maris of Locke? And it's like, ah, shit. Like, and then go back to the beginning. And then she literally says like, in the first chapter, when everyone that she loved was killed during the war. Like, that's the first time that she's like, actually, this might be my fault. So there's a lot of that. So that was quite intentional that I didn't want Gray to ever lie to the reader, just not tell them the full truth. And it's almost that sense that she can't tell them the whole truth because that means accepting responsibility for all of this stuff that's no longer within her control. So it's almost like Kier has to be the keeper of that truth as the only person who can kind of speak it out loud. So that was what I was thinking structurally. Did it ever? Yeah, no, I think it's always in this version, which I started in 2022, 2023. It's always kind of been like that. And I think the only thing that was slightly technically challenging was deciding where to put those like step backs into the past, where we understand like Gray learning how to use power and Gray meeting Kier for the first time and them joining the war, because there were like longer sections of that. But I was going to say, she's a long book, but book 2 is much longer. So just figuring out how that works from a pacing perspective. So we still feel like we're moving quickly, especially from the point that in like chapter 2, Kier gets stabbed.
Right.
You said, has this story been with you since around 13, 14? Is that what you were hinting at?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about like why it never left you. Like, what was it that like kept making you revisit it from age 13 to 14? It's like you knew you had something.
Honestly, like character. Like, so the entire origin story of Locke the Isle, not the origin story in like Katama and Rhetoric and all of the like lore, that was new, but the origin story of this isle being in a position of power and then just like, boom, done.
Right.
Gray is the last heir, and Kier as this, like, the center of Gray's world. That's kind of, I don't know, there's just something so chewy. And I think my brain has just always been like, yeah. I think the literal note that I have is I finished working on, it's called My Throat an Open Grave, which was like a religious horror that came out in 2022. I finished working that, and my brain just needed something. No, it came out in 2024. Sorry. Needed to self-correct there. My brain just needed something that didn't hurt so much, and like felt fun. I needed to make writing fun again. And yeah, I've poked them so many times to see like, can I make you two work? But I think it was just that moment of like, I think I'm a better writer now. I feel like I have the ambition to do something in second world high fantasy because it requires so much more brain. And I think like I finally feel ready to bring them back. And there was just a sense that like I always wanted to do right by Gray and Kier. And I think that's it, is like there was so much about the concept around them that just felt really like, yeah, chewy for my brain in particular, because there's the themes of sacrifice, which is a trope that I use very frequently. And like that idea of codependent behavior and this codependent relationship. And I think that's just something that I kept wanting to come back to. But every time I did it, I just couldn't make the pieces fit. And now I had this like space of time where I was out of contract. I didn't really know what to write next. And I just wanted to do something different.
No,
Love that idea of the chewy character, not still chewing from 13 to now.
yeah.
I know, but like sometimes you just have to let it percolate.
Yes. Yep.
No, that's so true. I love that. And it's interesting that how you kept coming back to Gray and Kier, because the question that I have for you next, their relationship stood out to me a lot. It really, so I'm a big crybaby.
Me too. It's okay.
I didn't used to be. I didn't used to know how to cry. And ever since like I started crying, I can't stop. I cry at everything. Like
Same.
it's like once
I haven't cried on the podcast yet, Ammie. Like I'm waiting. I don't know.
Now's the time. We're gonna do it now.
Listeners, you have been put on notice.
Now's the chance. No, and I actually, their relationship stood out to me the most because there's so much heart in it. There's such a friendship there. And I myself have just learned recently that I don't think it's that I don't like a trope. I think I just don't like it until I like it, until I see. And this like friends to lovers thing that was kind of like just under the surface. And you could tell that there was like this really strong connection, this really strong bond. And I just imagined in the Hercules animated movie, like, just say you're in love already.
Yeah.
Did you always meet, like when you finally got the pieces of that together, did you always want their relationship to stand out the most in the story?
I think so. And going back to pulling it out of the drawer, one of the reasons that I put it out of the drawer is I was getting married. And my husband is my best friend. Not to be like a sap about it. The book is dedicated to him. So like, he's not like a secret. Secret husband, yeah. But so I think that was kind of part of the reconfiguring, is I feel like a lot of the books I was reading, and this is no shade to them because I love an enemies to lovers, but I feel like there was so many times where I was reading a relationship and I was like, I don't even know if you like each other. Like, I don't know if you like each other. And like, now I know that the physical attraction is there, but like, after we move past this huge insurmountable thing, are we going to stay together? Or like, are those fundamental differences going to be something that brings us apart? Or like reading a book and having a sense that like, I don't know if this person respects you as a person. And that was just something that I wanted to read at the time, is like, I want to read a book where I'm not questioning from page one that this person respects you and loves you, even if it's not in the way that you necessarily want. And so, yeah, it is a book that fundamentally, even though like it's up to interpretation if they get married by the end, like not really. Even though it's a book that they don't necessarily get married at the end, it's a book about marriage, because it's a book that kind of is looking at that relationship in a way that I wanted to be looking at, like my own relationship going into my marriage. Is like, is this somebody, like, how do I want to respect you for what is vow-wise the rest of my life? We're still together, so that's going well. Like,
well done, congrats.
It's only been 2 years, I guess, of marriage, not relationship. So that was really something I was thinking about, was like, what does marriage mean to me? What do I want it to look like? And like, if we're starting from a place of mutual respect, what does that look like? And how is there still tension in a story from a craft perspective, even if we know these two people respect each other? And there's never a question, I hope, from page one that they love one another. The question is how. So that was something that I wanted to play with.
No, and I mean, you did it well, because even on my, so I read it first and then I listened to it. Great narrators, by the way.
She's so good. Sorry.
No,
again, this is something that I had no control over. So
fantastic narration. I kept thinking of,
It's good to know, because I'm never doing narration on my romantic fantasy ever again.
So good.
Like,
it's so good.
Oh, that's great. This is good to hear.
No, it was so good. I actually kept imagining, and I can't remember her character's name in Game of Thrones, but Jon Snow and his wife in real life, he ended up marrying her.
Rose something.
Yes. Right? Yes. I kept imagining her then as like when I listened to it, I was like, wait, I have a different image, because I play it like a movie in my mind. So I was like, wait, I got different characters going on here than what I did when I was reading it. And I cried harder.
Oh my God. So I don't usually listen to the audiobooks of my books. Like, I'll listen to I get like a snippet. So I'll listen to like a bit of chapter 1, a bit of chapter 5, and I'm done. Like, don't read to me. But like, I'm so scared. Like, it freaks me out a little bit. The narrator, her name's Samara McLaren. I listened to the whole thing. Like, and no shade to my other narrators. Like, they're all wonderful. Samara is just, I don't know what like, there were so many things that I was like, hey, if you are okay to do this will be really cool. Like, Gray's accent changes during the book. Yes. And I was like, oh. And the way that they say her name changes. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Third time.
No, it created a way different reading experience. And even though I was fully immersed in it while reading it, like on paper, there was something about the chapter where she has to decide Kira's fate that just hit different. And I cried so hard.
If it helps, same. Like,
I did.
Oh, she got me. Like, it's a performance. She does such an amazing job.
It really brought out that what you were hoping the reader would pick up completely. So across different reading paths, whether you're reading it or listening to it, I got it immediately both times. I was like, yep, this is exactly the relationship I thought it was when I read it the first time. Yep. It was great.
Emotionally stressful. And the funny thing, okay, quick sidebar about the audio. They send you like, they're basically like, here are the narrators we're considering. They're reading a scene. Like, let us know. The scene that they picked is, I'm blushing even saying it, it's chapter 1. There is a back massage. And like, sorry. Yes, so there's a back massage in chapter 1, which is like the introduction to the dynamic of their relationship. The will they, won't they setup. Because Gray is very much like, if he actually liked me, this would be a good time to make a move, but he's not doing that. So obviously we're fine. So this was the introduction to the audiobook narrators. They sent, 8 versions of it. And so just listening to the scene like 8 times, and I think Samara's was like the last one. And all of them I was like, yeah, like this is good. This is really great. And then Samara starts and she just hits one part of like the dialogue. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, oh no. I think I was in public and like literally like dropped my phone. And then I said it to everybody I knew. I was like, you have to listen to this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, great pick. No, I agree. It was it was like listening to a movie.
I'm stunned. I want to listen to everything she speaks. Like, just gorgeous.
Just tell me stories.
Talk about Gray and Keir, this kind of relationship dynamic. It's funny you said codependency because I brought that up to Ammie and everybody. Hard no.
I did say hard no.
Like, you have no idea, Tori. I was like, and codependency relationship, especially with marriage or these type of
codependent. Yeah.
There's an interdependency, right? Like you rely on one another for certain things, right? And in real life and fictional story. So like that's where I was coming from on it. But like this heart bond, right? To talk about this kind of, interdependency. This raw power of the well providing to a mage, like devastating magic system. Because it's relationship coded into law, right? These things are like codified in. Was there a real world kind of dynamic, historical, or person that inspired the idea around that? Or was this like 13-year-old Tori was like, this is how things work?
No, and this actually came later. I think like Nerd Time. Is it Plato's Symposium? Where it's like, we're in Greeks again.
Yes.
This wasn't intentionally a Greek time. But yeah, I think it was like Plato's Symposium, where it's like the two sides of one whole.
Mm.
And so I think when I was revisiting the story and thinking about it in terms of marriage, that was kind of the thing that I was thinking of, was like this two sides of one whole. And I'd read a couple of things with a codependent magic system, including Getting in the Ninth, which is 10 out of 10. And there was a lot of that happening in the brain. So I think it was something of like this idea of magic having a cost. But what if the cost wasn't to you? What if the cost was to this person that you care about so deeply? And like, what if like you performing magic put someone else's life at risk? What would be the value of that? Like, how would we monitor this? So I think that was what was going into it, along with this idea of like soulmates and like realistically, the soulmate pairing or like bonding yourself to one another it's not fated mates in the sense of every person has someone that they have to find, it's they could do it with anyone that they love or anyone that they care about remotely or just work really well together with. And so I think that was something that was like the different versions of this interdependent relationship is that sometimes it's just casual. Sometimes it's like, hey, like walking down the street, like need a lighter. Hey, can I use your power? Like what does that relationship look like versus somebody who's like fully dedicated. No one else gets to use power. This is what it looks like. So that was definitely something that I was thinking about because like, what is the commitment of magic? Like what's the commitment of power? So I think that was going into it. But like in terms of historical, definitely thinking about Plato's, I'm going to say it's a symposium. Someone's going to come and correct me and that's fine. That it's that idea of like two souls in one.
Yeah, the one that matches, right? Each of us.
Yes.
Whether it's mentor, mentee, whether it's, a partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And so we've talked a lot about standalones in the beginning and how we love it. I mean, I truly love them. And the Second Death of Locke works fully well as a standalone, but of course you have another book in the same world coming up. So what will standalones in this world look like for you? Will they be very, very interconnected where you will want to read them in some kind of order? Or can you read them in order if you like to, but also drop into a story that kind of picks you?
My hope is you can read it in any order. We're going to see if that works because obviously book 2 is not out yet. So we'll see. But going back to Kristen Kishore, she does this with Graceling, Fire, and Bitterblue, and then there are more to the series as well. But I really loved Fire, but I think did I read them out of order? I think I might have read them out of order, but you don't have to read them in order. And then if you read the other books, it's kind of like a supplement. T. Kingfisher does this with The World of the White Rat. Like, Swordheart is in the same world as Paladin's Grace, for example, and like all the Paladin books, and it's just called The World of the White Rat, I think.
I think so, yes.
But you can read, yeah, exactly. Stephen King does this with Maine.
Yes.
But so like, you can come in and out of these places and you're still familiar with the world. And so Locke was actually, obviously I had the concept very early on, didn't finish the book for a while. When I was doing my PhD, I wrote a different book that's set in the same world. And that is fully standalone, disconnected from Locke. I think the closest we get to it is Linden, which is the place where Sela is running from in book 1, and also the place where we go back to in book 2 of this. So I wrote another standalone set in this world, which is like weirdly inspired by like the Napoleonic Wars and War and Peace. So it's kind of like fantasy War and Peace with like demon magicians.
Ooh, I'm excited.
No, it's never going to see the light of day. This is the thing.
I mean, that's a good one-liner to an agent right there.
It's not. It's not. It's on a shelf. The shelf is not being touched right now. So I think like that was a good exercise in standalone world building that utilizes a world that I already know. And so the hope is you can read them in any order. We'll see if that works in practice. I think book 3 is going to be more challenging with this than book 2. But book 2, the helpful thing was coming in on a character who we've not met in the context of book 1, and then seeing some other characters in a different viewpoint. And I think one of the other series that I have not actually talked about this time around, but was hugely influential for this was The Queen's Thief by Megan Whalen Turner.
Oh.
And it's great. 10 out of 10. But like book 3, we zoom out on like Eugenides and Atolia. We go to this one guard. His name is Costas. And like Costas has no stake in the story that we know and love, but he has his own problems. And like we get everything from Costas's point of view. And he's like curmudgeonly. Maybe I just love a curmudgeon. But I think it's so interesting to kind of see things that we already know from this new perspective. And that was something I wanted to do. Be in a familiar world in an unfamiliar way. And also, I think my hope would be if people come in book 2, read that first, and then say, I wonder what these guys, like, what's up with these two?
Right.
Go back to book 1.
Well, I think it sounds like similar to like what we were talking about before, because like I feel like Bardugo's world is kind of like that, because I was saying,
yes,
because I read Six of Crows completely separate from Shadow and Bone, and I was able to just drop right into it. But then I was curious. I was like, oh, now I'm curious. I want to go back and then go. Yeah. Which
that
is
would
like,
be the hope. That would be the hope, is that like they all can stand completely by themselves with their own stakes, their own narrative, their own story that wraps up. Read it as a standalone and be happy. But if you want to know more, here you go.
Oh, I love that.
All right. So for the title, as we're talking about the Second Death of Locke here, we head towards the end. The title does a lot of work, right? The second death isn't the body.
That it does.
That's quite. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So that second death is like being forgotten entirely in my take, right? So Gray's like this last living memory of Locke, so we have to add book. How do you think? Like, talk to me a little bit about that evolution. Is the book fundamentally about grief and erasure and like erasing that and forgetting that, having that second death, or is it more about magic and war? And
so there is a second death of Locke within the story. So if the death of the isle is the first death, then how spoilery can we get? There is a specific death, like Kier dying is genuinely the in-text second death. But then there's so much like Yeah, so it's this fear of the death of memory. It's this fear of the death of this person again. It's this fear of not being able to like live up to potential, that you're going to cause even more destruction. Like, and there is a moment like when she's having a conversation with Ola at the end where Ola's like, well, you could blow it up again. She's like, rather not. So I think, well, yeah, exactly. Like, it was just like, that was all what was going into it. So I wanted it to be layers of like, okay, so is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a concept? Is it memory? And then it's just dominoes. And I think the thing that Gray kind of realizes is that people around her are just going to keep dying, and she can't really hold on to it. And she also, trying to prevent it in some ways, just makes things worse. And she does get back, obviously, the one thing that she wants, but like at a cost. And so, but is the cost worth it? Gray would probably argue no. Kier would be like, shut up. So it is like, okay, well, what is the cost benefit to this? So that was kind of what was going through my head with the Second Death. And it's also, you know, a genre convention itself, like, because we have 6 Deaths of the Saint. So that was something that was in the brain goo. And there was another book's title that I was like, that's in the brain as well. It's not coming to mind now. Yeah, I think it was partially genre convention, and partially I wanted it to be related to the book on like a thematic level. And then there's a point like near the end where Kier says like there isn't going to be a second death. But is that even worth saying? Because the second death has already happened. And like all of these, you know, things are going to keep happening, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. Yeah, so I think it's the general resistance to time and change.
Great
which
title.
we all feel.
Yeah.
We do all feel that. There is, if you're open to it, there is one question.
Hit me.
I would like to ask. You have 2 aspiring writers sitting right here with you.
Welcome to hell.
But also, I guarantee we have tons in the audience. What would be your 2 top pieces of advice?
Yeah, you gotta love the craft. Like, I think especially now, there's this, like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. There's this idea of like authorhood that's like very pervasive on like social media, of doing all the stuff, you know, like you get like the events and like the book, like holding the book for the first time and like, I don't know, talking about it. But like at the end of the day, it is me in my sweatpants, curled up like a shrimp in front of a laptop. And like that honestly is the thing that gives me so much joy, is like the writing itself. And our relationship with the writing changes, especially as people start reading it. Like when expectations start to come in, that's really scary. Like editor expectations, reader expectations. I am ready for people to come after me for book 2. Like I'm so ready for people to be like Burn Book style, like this is the nastiest bitch. But anyways, you have to love the craft. It has to be for you at the end of the day, and because you really love it. And because that's the one thing that, like, everything else could change. We could never publish another book. We could publish books to millions and never be satisfied again. But, like, we have to love the work. Or at least like it. And there will be days when you don't love it. But there will be days when you do. So, yeah, I think that's the main thing. And then the other thing I would say, and this is obviously, like, everyone says this, read. But, like, read widely. Read stuff that you think you're going to love. Read stuff that you think you're not going to like. Read anything that you feel the least bit of tug to. Read nonfiction. Read essays on JSTOR. Read people's PhDs. Like, that's it. That's where the brain goo comes from. it's all just other people's words up there filling the tank. But I think some of the stuff that I've learned so much from a craft perspective have been like books that on my internal rating scale have been like a 3-star read, because that's that like unsatisfying bit is what's telling you what you like. And so there's so much opportunity to shape your own craft by seeing how other people have done stuff. Think about how you would do it differently. Yeah, so love the work, love the craft itself. Try and, keep that joy alive, but also read. And yeah, at the end of the day, we love books. Coming back to what we opened with, like, we love books, right?
Absolutely, 100%. One of the things you said made me think of, has anybody eaten at Balthazar in New York? I know, totally
what is Balthazar?
Doesn't matter.
What a good name. No, do you have to tell me now?
It's a French bistro, and the guy that did it, I forget his name now, but he's a very famous restaurateur. And in one of the interviews, and I'll never forget it because it's going to correlate back to what you said earlier. People coming after you for the book you write. The magazine, I think it was like New York Magazine, was asking him, like, what's the best part of opening up a restaurant or your restaurant industry, or what you're doing? And he's like, honestly, before the doors open. He's like, there was so much work leading up to that moment of execution, of the creative manifestation of everything you had in your head. And he's like, once the doors open, everybody comes flooding in, and you have to adapt. You have to do things for your customers or for your readers. And he's like, the best moment is right before the doors open.
Yes. I think this is one of the hardest things to adjust to, is like, there is a distinct point in time where this thing that is just a collection of your thoughts is not yours anymore. And like, it's hard.
Savage, right? It's savage. It's wonderful. Like all these things that's like, door open, like the Pandora's box is open now.
It's hard, but it's also the dream. That's like it exactly. It's like, this is the best thing that's ever happened, and it's the scariest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. And I have to, like, I've always loved writing. It's always just been very personal, though.
Yeah.
It almost happened. We almost saw me tear up on Spells from the Shelf.
Oh, let's keep going. We're almost there.
Oh my God. I think it's a very like emotional thing for some reason for me. And having not done it for a number of years, and recently, like when I got back into reading, it started getting the creative juices going, and it started making me want to write again. And I have mist in my eyes, but I'm not going to full blown cry.
Getting to the catharsis part.
It's very personal. So I could see where like you hold it, like what you said, Paulie, like we're like right before the doors open. It's almost like a very personal thing that it's just yours. And speaking with you today, Tori, like this was a very personal story that you've had this story for years.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, it's been so interesting talking about it, because obviously I've always known that like so much of it is tied into thinking about marriage. Yeah. But like, that's not something that I talked about at the beginning, because I was like, well, I don't know how much of that I want to share. And it's obviously like, there are so many layers of that, of deeply personal stuff in the book. But like, it's that question of how much then becomes everyone else's, especially when readers are going to find their own meaning in things. And like, the other thing is, as writers, we can never, impose restrictions on the meaning that readers can find in stuff. And I find that to be beautiful, because there will be people who will come up to me and say like, oh, I read this book when I was going through this thing, and it was important for me to get through this thing. And we all have books like that as well. Books that like, if we were going through a really hard time in our lives, it was meaningful and it was important, or we learned empathy, or we learned like some other lesson. And that's what we do at the end of the day. And that's just something that's beautiful. And of course, we're bringing all of our personhood into it. But also, that reader is meeting us halfway, and they're bringing all of their personhood into it too. And that's such a wonderful combination. And I really love that.
That's so nice.
It's great. We all have a good time, right?
Books is the common meeting ground.
We love books.
We love books. The theme for today, guys, is we love books.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this was really fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me and Goose Voice on.
Oh, epic. Grit. Let's bring the grit.
Can't wait for like any like sound bites to be like, and this is what we sound like.
No, I think this was seriously, thanks for joining us today. This was amazing. Cannot wait to see all the great things that you have coming at us, especially when that necromancy hits.
Oh, just you wait till that annotated bibliography hits my website. Like, I'm ready.
Adds to cart. Adds to cart. Oh, well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners. And listen, guys, be sure if you have not read it yet, be sure to pick this up.
Sleep on it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.